listening to the UAE's #1 talk radio station.
This is The Agenda
On Dubai Eye 103.8.
You might have heard earlier this week on our programme, we talked about a survey that placed the UAE at 22nd in the world in an index on women's rights. Now, the Emirates was ranking highly for things like employment, community safety, there was financial inclusion, share of parliamentary seats was a really big one, and then access to justice. But, if you wanted to improve that number, what if the easiest way to do that was to reduce the working week to 4 days? I reckon we'd all of a sudden have quite a lot of men on board. A lot of women on board, obviously. But if we said, if you do a 4-day working week, it's going to improve women's equality to men, I think the chaps would be coming out and voting for it as well. Well, certainly the recipient of the latest Nobel Prize in Economics, Professor Claudia Goldin, now she researches the gender pay gap. She reckons the current disparity between men and women can mainly be attributed to childcare responsibilities. And if you only work 4 days a week, then potentially that extra day could be used to catch up on those responsibilities. Now, worth mentioning that women working full-time year-round are paid 84% of what men are paid. So there is still this, quickly do the math, 16% pay gap. Okay, so why would a 4-day working week make that much of a difference? Let's find out. Joining us now is Dr. Mansoor Soomro. He is a future of work researcher at the Teesside University's International Business School based in the United Kingdom, which means he's got up horrendously early in the morning to talk to us. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Soomro. Lovely to have you join us. Okay, tell me, what is this case for the 4-day working week that researchers are getting so excited about?
Thank you, Georgia. Morning. Yeah, in fact, early morning. Yeah, so this case of 4-day working week, or as we say, shorter working week, that this has been a discussion since some time now. But the piece that I published in Fortune recently, what I've tried to project is that a 4-day week, which is a reduced working week, has a strong connection in helping us, has a strong connection with the gender pay gap or gender equality. Now, how does it actually work? As you mentioned about the research by Professor Claudia, where she studied this gender pay gap, and the findings suggest that, the current earnings gap between men and women is largely due to childcare responsibilities. There's another word that we use here, which is the motherhood penalty, right? So 4-day week is in fact an opportunity which can help us balance the caregiving responsibilities between parents, father and mother. And in the article, what I've seen is that the cases that we have studied, there are 3 cases that we have studied. The first one is Kickstarter. It's a company, the crowdfunding American company. They moved on to a 4-day working week, and they found that young women, they especially found that the responsibilities of childcare, they found that they were doing better, especially in the early years of motherhood. There's another case of Microsoft Japan. They moved to a 4-day working week, and women said that the stress levels and burnouts have gone down while they were doing this trial for the 4-day working week. The third case that we studied was that of Unilever. So Unilever announced all flex policy, which aims at flexible working arrangements, which includes, one of the arrangements is a shorter working week in the form of working week. And they also witnessed that they were able to achieve a balance in the gender roles, especially at the leadership positions. So what we are seeing is that there is a connection between a 4-day working week and gender pay gap, and the companies that are actually trying to do this have given us results which are encouraging.
I mean, it would be especially helpful if that 4-day working week, if it wasn't the same day, if the two members of a marriage, for example, the two partners, if they didn't have the same day off, then that would be really helpful, because then the scenario is that, say, if my husband takes every Monday off and I'm not working every Friday, then you're also going to be better off financially, because you don't have to pay for childcare 4 days a week, 5 days a week. You can only pay it 3 days a week.
That's right. So the notion of 4-day working week does not exactly mean that, Fridays will be off for everyone or Mondays will be off for everyone. So the idea of the notion of this is that, it is utmost flexibility. So it does not also mean that, the company will be operating, 4 days a week. The company might still operate on the customer end side or on the front end side 5 days a week, but the arrangements between different employees will be different, in which each employee will be working at max 4 days. The arrangements they can pick and choose, and this is where exactly the point that you mentioned, that the flexibility comes in, and the couples can pick different dates or different days of working.
Now, regular listeners will think that regular listeners will know that I like to pull the subject of artificial intelligence into nearly every conversation at the moment. But this is what the proponents of AI are saying, that we won't have to work as hard in the future, and that ultimately human beings will be able to rely on robots to do lots of work, and therefore we are going to have more free time. And I can't help but see that argument paired with the growth of this enthusiasm for the 4-day week, this sort of future of work research. Do you think the two are rising in tandem, or am I seeing links that don't exist?
You're seeing the links which absolutely exist, right? So especially with the evolving, pace of artificial intelligence tools and technologies that we're talking about at the workplace, and that too the cost effectiveness of that, what we'll see is that there's a lot of free time that's coming up, and with that we're saying that the productivity will remain, and the free time will increase. But now there's a caveat here. What we have seen over years is that whenever productivity increases with technology, productivity goes up, and free time, we get a little bit of free time in terms of employees' work schedule, but this free time immediately fills up with additional work. Right. So work never ends, as they say. So even if we work 5 days a week, but if we want to work 6 days a week, even the work will expand. So in fact, work expands based on the deadline. So sometimes, you say that I will be finishing this work in the next 2 days. But sometimes if you say that, OK, let me finish this in 1 day. And when you put that deadline a little earlier, you'll see that you will be able to do a great deal of it. So work does expand. Depending on the time. So with artificial intelligence, absolutely, we will have more free time, right? Productivity will increase. But the point is that we want to pass this on to the employees, and not that employers coming up that, there's more work to be done because now we have free time, and, the productivity has increased, and, the availability of time is more.
So AI is a feminist issue. That's what I'm going to do. I'm adopting it. It's going to bring greater freedoms for women. It's going to bring greater flexibility of work, and we should embrace it.
Indeed. And in fact, the premise of that you mentioned, 4-day working week and gender pay gap that you're talking about. The study that we have done is that, there are various reasons for the gender pay gap, which includes social norms, because in some countries, there are unequal opportunities for males and females. Likewise, there are industry issues as well. There are certain industries where women are appreciated more. This is based on the nature of the business model and the industry. There are some laborious industries as well. There's also an element of class ceiling, where we say that women find it a bit difficult to reach higher level positions, especially the board positions and top management positions. And the fourth one is the area of childcare responsibilities. So the research, the current research says, and this is, I'm talking about the last decade or two, the most pressing issue in terms of gender pay, and the reason for that is coming from the childcare responsibilities. So 4-day working week, as you said, that will be a strong case to help us reduce this gap and to give an equal footing to men and women who are because what we've seen is that men and women, they start at the same time, but gap widens when kids are born. So I think this will the notion of 4-day working week will play instrumental role in reducing the gender pay gap.
It is a constant source of conversation in our home, particularly at the moment. Dr. Mansoor Soomro, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Dr. Soomro is a future of work researcher at Teesside University's International Business School in the UK. Serious food for thought there, sir. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
This is The Agenda
on Dubai Eye 103.8, the UAE's #1 talk radio station.